It's great being here today. I'm Tony Grady, and I live in Reno, and I'm happy to be standing here on the stage today. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm going to tell you where I stand. I'm going to tell you what I intend to do as Lieutenant Governor. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about Sam. I am a proud veteran. I served in the United States Air Force for 20 years. I'm a pilot. I'm a test pilot. I believe in the Constitution of the United States. I defended it for 20 years. I believe in the right to life, the right of free speech, the right to bear arms. I believe it says the right of the people to have and bear arms shall not be infringed. And that means shall not be infringed. I believe in freedom of religion. I believe that the family is the basic unit of our nation. The family needs to be protected and encouraged. It doesn't need to be overtaxed or redefined. I believe that we in the United States are a free people who exercise our freedom with individual responsibility, and we are not to be dictated to. So, how did I come to hold these positions? I have some great parents. They were poor. They grew up in the Jim Crow South. If I had had a projector and a big screen, I would project the picture of my grandmother standing by my father when he graduated from college. Huge accomplishment. That picture sits in my living room, and it reminds me that education is key. It's key because when you have an education and you work hard, there's great opportunities for you. So my parents, who both graduated from Hampton Institute, instilled that within me. And because my dad was good at what he did, he eventually was put into foreign service. So growing up, I got to live overseas. One of the first places I lived was Lagos, Nigeria. And then later, we came back to Philadelphia for a little while. And then my dad got hired by the US government to work for USAID, United States Agency for International Development. It's a non-political side of the State Department through which foreign aid goes through. And he was an educator, sent to Vietnam, so our family was sent to Safe Haven in Bangkok, Thailand, where I went through 6th grade through high school. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the best country in the world because I've seen it from the outside. I've seen the results of communism and socialism, and namely, it is abject poverty for their people. So, becoming very patriotic, I went to the United States Air Force Academy, and I became a pilot. High point of my career is that I got to command the B-2 Stealth Bomber Test Squadron, and I have to reiterate that yes, I flew the airplane. A lot of people wonder, did you really fly the bomber? Yes, I did. It was a dream come true, but that wasn't the important thing. The important thing was that it was a multi-billion-dollar test program, and I was responsible for cost, schedule, and performance. So I just want you to know that this pilot understands business. After the Air Force, I flew for FedEx for 20 years, and I was on their team to evaluate the A380 to see if that would be a good freighter. And then after that, during that time, I also ran a nanotechnology business for 11 years, so I understand startups. Why is that important? It's important because the lieutenant governor is the point man for business, and I'll get back to that in a little bit. So somewhere along the way, I got married and I had 4 kids, And as we all know, kids don't listen. So my oldest went to Annapolis. I'm glad that none of my Air Force Academy buddies are here. And then the baby did something worse. He went to West Point. I think that's why Sam decided that I could come on the stage today. But anyway, the point that I want to make about that is that you can dote over your kids. But what I want you to know is that I know how to help young people be successful. And if you're wondering about the two in the middle, one was a molecular biologist who's now a school teacher, and the other one was a kinesiologist that runs her own personal training business. So my kids are very successful, and that's because of their mother. But anyway, the reason that that is important is that the lieutenant governor is the point man for business, and businesses rely on workforce, and the workforce relies on education. Ladies and gentlemen, we're dead last in Nevada. That does not bode well for our businesses in the future. So, I learned a little bit more about business because for the community in Reno, I was the director of flight operations for the Reno Championship Air Races for the last 2 years. And then also, I just want you to know that I'm here in Nevada because of friends, and one of my friends who caused me to be here is a rancher in Fallon, and he asked me to tutor his daughter in Algebra 2 because I'm an engineer. And when I found out what she wasn't learning in the classroom, I was horrified. So I'm motivated to get into this job to try to influence something about education. So here's the so what. The so what is that though there are a lot of things that the lieutenant governor does, one thing the lieutenant governor is that he sits on the cabinet of the governor. And to influence education, I would suggest to the governor that the first thing you do is fire the Nevada State Board of Educators. They serve at his pleasure. And in any business, if you had the kind of non-performance that they had, they would not be in business anymore. So they need to be replaced with people that are actually interested in educating our children. The next thing I would do is I would suggest to the educators that they start following NRS 288, which says curriculums are supposed to be controlled by the local school board and not by the state. And then the last plug I want to make for all of you is you have to make sure you pay attention to that down ballot, because in down ballot we have people that are running for school boards. And we can do all this stuff at the top, but if we don't have good school boards, nothing's going to change. So pay attention to that so that we have good school boards. The next phase I would go into is influence the educators to replace CRT. We need to have the 1776 Unites curriculum, the Cornerstone curriculum, and civics. We need to get back to reading, writing, and arithmetic. And we need to put competition back into schools, because as the great late economist Walter Williams said, competition produces excellence, and we need excellence in our schools. So the Lieutenant Governor is also responsible for tourism. I would like to announce to the world that Nevada is open for business and to come. We have beautiful places. Since I've traveled extensively, we've got beautiful places here. Lake Tahoe, we got trails, we got all kinds of things. So we're open for business, come. And all of this is very important. But probably the biggest thing that I want you to take away from this is, why should you vote for me? We've had a good time today, told you a little bit about me. But the real reason is that I bring one thing and one thing only to this job: proven, principled leadership. Leaders solve problems, and that's what we need to do. I am not going to have all the answers, but I'm going to find the people that do, and we're going to solve problems. So as Tony Grady, I would like to be your Lieutenant Governor and defend your constitutional rights as your next Lieutenant Governor. But I wouldn't be standing here if it weren't for Sam Brown. Because I got all fired up and I wanted to run, and I got into the Republican office, and I'm gonna run for Lieutenant Governor. And Sam looked at me and said, Tony, you need help. So Sam's been this way before, and he started whispering in my ear, and I began to realize that this is a very complicated process to run. And I can stand here today because of combined arms. One job that I did in the Air Force was I was a forward air controller. And as a forward air controller, you learn how to support the people on the ground. You are the communications link between the fighters who can't see what's going on and the guys on the ground who are getting cut to shreds. And it's something very, very precise. And it's combined arms because air power working together to help the guys on the ground. And a little bit of history. The United States Army has not been molested from the air since the Korean War. So Sam Brown is that guy that is going to be on the team of Combined Arms, and he's going to go to Washington, D.C., and he's going to carry the interests of those of us who are in Nevada and all Americans. But one of the key things, we already talked about land and fires, but in Reno, where I live, with all the Californians jumping ship, it's starting to get tight there. So we need somebody in Washington that understands that so we can get some BLM land returned back to the state. Those are the kind of things that Sam Brown will do. But the most important thing that Sam Brown will do that I'm very proud of, he will uphold the fact that those of us who serve in uniform view it as a privilege. And those who have fought for freedom taste something that the protected never know. And that kind of integrity is what we need in politics because it's lacking. Thank you all for being here today. Thank you for your time. I'm Tony Grady, running to be your next Lieutenant Governor.
That was great. Thank you.